What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my main man, Jacob Punturi. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Houston Texans in less than a week, the wild card round of the playoffs, and we're diving into how a victory happens for the Black and the Gold. We're diving into that, some quarterback news on the horizon, and a little Overreaction Tuesday on this fine Tuesday. It's a beautiful one here in Las Vegas, but I don't know if there are bad days here in Las Vegas. Hope the city of Pittsburgh's treating you well, my friend. How you feeling?
Feeling good. I have to say there is a little bit of warmer weather here in Pittsburgh. I think we're in the 40s right now. The snow's melting away. If you forgot to shovel part of your driveway, the Mother Nature is doing a lot of work for you. So give her a shout out here. But no, things are all well and good. We are still feeling optimistic. I've had some time to reflect after yesterday's episode of sheer euphoria, I would describe it as. And today I still feel pretty optimistic and confident, and I'm happy to dive into what the Steelers have to do and how they can get past the Houston Texans in the wild card weekend. So I'm pumped.
It is a crazy week, and I think the days that go by, you start to really break it down. And what's cool and what's exciting is that we are a full 24, nearly 48 hours removed from what was complete chaos, but like you said, euphoria, excitement, just like a ride in the highest of highs. And it's still, as the dust settles, starts to feel like nobody was overreacting. You know what I mean? There wasn't they're going to win this and it's whatever. And then it comes crashing down and you're going, no, they're going to get smoked. This is going to get bad. No, you're sitting here going, things are possible, feeling pretty good about the situation, feeling pretty good about the Pittsburgh Steelers' chances and how they do it. But how they do it is the big picture. So let's dive into that. What does it look like? What does it not look like when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Houston Texans? Let's start on the offensive side of the football. That's the big one. DK comes back for the Black and Gold. You're looking at a Houston Texans defense that is crazy good, my friend. I mean, you don't win 9 games with CJ Stroud playing back and forth good and bad football without one legitimate and very scary defense. When you have guys like Derek Stingley and Will Anderson, you have a duo, and honestly, Danielle Hunter, toss his name out there and put him near the top of the list in the entire NFL of dangerous players out there. When you have those superstars and they're playing the way that they are, it is very difficult to, and I don't want to say prove yourself, but walk away on top, walk away with an edge on a group like that. When you look at the Steelers and a full force Steelers, which is always exciting, what gives them an advantage over Houston? What can they do to claim an advantage over the Houston Texans defense?
The key to getting past the Houston Texans is part of it is, of course, getting through the secondary, but it has to be this matchup that they need to win between their tackles and the pass rush tandem, this dynamic duo that is Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr. of the Houston Texans. How they get that advantage, I think there is a little bit of a secret weapon. There's a little bit of an advantageous turn here because the Pittsburgh Steelers are riding hot with Dylan Cook at their starting left tackle position. And this is a player who we talked about a bit yesterday, and we've been mentioning, I think, more and more over the past few weeks. He's been excellent. He's been largely someone that you can not talk about, someone that you don't even have to worry about or put any thought into, because he's just been reliable and steady. And that's exactly what you need for a left tackle, especially going into a playoff run. And I cannot give enough praise to right tackle Troy Fautanu in his second year, but it's really his rookie year, and just how quickly he's turned into an elite player at that position. So you look at those tackle positions, they have to be at their best. But does the youth, does the unknown factors that they possess, does that give them an advantage of going up against a potent pass rushing duo in Anderson and Hunter? That's the huge question there, because if you can do that, you have step one done, and then you have to get past this even more dynamic, I would argue, secondary combo. You mentioned Derek Stingley Jr., Kamari Lassiter, the other starter back for the Texans, has more passes defended this year. So it just gets tougher, but you have to take care of those two game wreckers on the edge.
I agree. That's where it starts. And Troy Fautanu versus Will Anderson is my like matchup to watch. You want to go watch some physical, good football? Go watch Will Anderson take on Troy Fautanu and say, if everything goes right, if they stay healthy, if they continue to improve, really, Will Anderson's already there. If Troy continues to improve, those are two of the better players at their position for the next, I don't know, 10 years maybe, who could just continue to develop into something crazy. This is the biggest test Troy Fautanu will have, in my opinion, it really his entire career, because he missed his rookie season to injury. He's back this year and he's played really well, as you continue to say, but this in the crowd of people that he has taken on, I don't think Will Anderson sits below any of them. I think it's the hardest matchup Troy Fautanu will have. This is, I mean, you could talk about Myles Garrett. You can't approach Danielle Hunter, and I'm getting those sides correct, right? It's Will Anderson on the Troy Fautanu side, and then Danielle Hunter on the other side. I'm almost positive. And
Correct.
And for Hunter, you could not approach that like Myles Garrett. To me, like, you can't say, oh, we're just going to help Dylan Cook as much as possible. It'll be Chip City over there. Because if you let Will Anderson go, he's going to beat Troy at some point. You got to be able to help him. I agree with you. You look at these tackles and they decide almost everything in this game. And then I think the second piece of this is Kenneth Gainwell and Jaylen Warren, because if you could control the clock, if you can control the line of scrimmage and say, or the first down marker and say, okay, we're fighting 3rd and 4 instead of 3rd and 9 continuously. If we're fighting 3rd and 2 instead of 3rd and 7 continuously, you have opportunities. You set yourself up to slow pace this game. Is that a key, or is that a hurtful moment for the Steelers to keep this thing, I don't want to say close, but to control the clock in a way where it is a very slow-paced game? Or do you think it needs to be a little bit more up-tempo and the Steelers got to take advantage of those running moments?
No, I'm glad you bring up the running combination that the Steelers have, because I think if you get into an up tempo back and forth sort of like, you're just moving the ball at a breakneck speed, there's going to be moments. We've seen the Steelers excel in a 2-minute drive situation before this season. There's going to be moments for that up tempo, but the best way to neutralize those two edge rushers, in my opinion, is to have a rushing attack that sort of takes them out of the game or makes them less effective, right? And you have Jaylen Warren, you have Kenneth Gainwell. We continue to praise the offensive line and their ability to get push at the line of scrimmage. Use that to your advantage. Slow the game down, control time of possession. This is a team that has not been very good at controlling that statistic, but when they do, they often find more success. And for a team that can't really put together splash plays on a consistent basis on offense, even with DK Metcalf coming back, which I'm sure we'll talk more and more about, you got to use what you have to your advantage, and that is a really strong and athletic offensive line and two really talented running backs there. So yeah, keep it between the tackles for a bit. See if you can work one of those edges and see if you gain an advantage to one side. That's another way to grind down on those guys as well. But yeah, I think the best way to neutralize the two biggest threats on defense that the Texans bring to Acrisure Stadium is to get your running game going and just hold on to the ball, tire them out, will only play to the Steelers' advantage.
I agree. Let's talk about the DK thing. DK Derek Stingley is most likely the matchup here. But Lassiter, like you said, that's a big physical guy. Stingley is so good, but not the biggest human. But he's kind of like short, and I don't want to say stocky. He's just like short, muscular, and able to do everything. It's kind of nuts.
Incredibly strong.
Yeah, strong. Right? Like, he plays so much bigger than he actually is. And he's not like short. He's not like 5'8", but he's not a Richard Sherman. He's not a Joey Porter Jr. That's not his game. He plays strong. Lassiter is a big corner. Like, that's a big man right there. Against DK, who do you see matching up? And do you see DK winning this battle? You know what I mean? And I mean, I'll add to the other side of it after you're done, but we'll at some point have to talk about the Calvin impact of this, and can Calvin take any of these guys on and win battles as well?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is going to be which other receiver besides DK Metcalf can win a one-on-one battle. I think I would expect to see, honestly, a lot of Kamari Lassiter going up against DK Metcalf like that. He's just a little bit more aggressive towards the ball, and Derek Stingley really offers more overall more to the game. Like you can get
Yeah.
him very effective on in the rushing game. He's a great open field tackler. Not that Lassiter isn't, but this year he's having such a good sort of ball hawking season. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of those one-on-one matchups, and there's where the problem is. Therein lies the rub. So they say, can someone like a Calvin Austin get behind Derek Stingley Jr., who by my account, by my estimation, is playing on a level not so
Oh,
different of like what Pat Surtain was doing last year as a defensive player of the year. So it's not like you're going up against just a hot corner on the other side who's playing well. This is one of the best players on the defensive side of football. So it's going to come down to, can DK Metcalf win some one-on-one matchups? Of course, you need your best players to be that in these moments, but Calvin Austin's going to have to shake someone loose. Pat Freiermuth is going to have to make a big play over Jalen Peter, who's in and of himself another great defensive player at the safety position, but someone else is going to have to make that big play.
I'm so happy that you brought up Pat Freiermuth because I think that's the key here. You know what I mean? You want to beat a good defense, a defense that, I mean, they could play both man to man and zone, but you want to beat a good defense. You got to have a guy who could find the open space and sit there. And that is what Pat does best, is he finds that open space and goes, there I am. Throw me the football. I'm around. You know what I'm saying? If the Steelers want to have an advantage, it obviously comes down to DK winning those matchups. It obviously comes down to the running game controlling the pace of this entire thing. But Pat's got to be the guy. Pat's got to be the, if everything is even, who is the player that gives you that edge? And that's got to be Pat. That's where he comes into play, is in those critical third and fourth situations. Who are you going to when DK's got help over the top, and Adam Thielen and MVS aren't open? Who are you looking to? Pat Freiermuth's got to be that guy. I think Pat is the biggest key to the Steelers offensively winning this game. And it's only because it's not going to be because he has, 400 yards and 6 touchdowns or anything crazy. It's going to be because he's going to be the guy that in those big moments is able to be the extra body that wins his matchup. And that's how you're going to take advantage of this. On the defensive side of the football for the Steelers, are you super worried about CJ Stroud? Are you not super worried about CJ Stroud? I feel like on a week-to-week basis, you never know what's going to happen here. But that line of scrimmage, when healthy, is okay. They're always kind of beat up, so it's a little bit difficult to see what side of the coin they'll be on. What's your thoughts on this offense? And do they pose a big enough threat when the Steelers are clicking?
They do, because they are good at doing the thing that really exposes the Steelers defense, which is stretching the field, right? Those same few plays that we've talked about that really just put the game almost away against the Baltimore Ravens in the wrong direction. Those are the exact same plays that CJ Stroud and Nico Collins, their top wide receiver, can connect for. And they really, I think part of it is they're going to be baiting the Pittsburgh Steelers to play man coverage in some ways, because you have Joey Porter Jr. You're going to be extremely confident in his ability to go one-on-one against Nico Collins. But as we continue to see, or what is the trend that's emerging, is that the safeties on the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, when in man coverage, are anything but up to snuff. So you have a lot of faith in James Pierre, Brandon Eccles, and Joey Porter Jr., of course, but your Jalen Ramseys and Kyle Duggar in pass protection not inspiring a ton of confidence right now. So there's certainly like a chess battle going on here in terms of the strategies. And I think the CJ Stroud, certainly a hot and cold quarterback, like you're mentioning here. I'm a fan of his overall. I think he has the ability to show up in these bigger moments. They've recorded a playoff win in each of the last 2 seasons. CJ Stroud's a big part of that. He and Nico Collins are obviously the 2 players to focus in on. And I think the thing that inspires hope is, unlike what I view Pat Freiermuth to be and what you view Pat Freiermuth to be, that secondary option that can win a one-on-one matchup, maybe come in the clutch. I don't really know who that person is for the Houston Texans. Of course, they have that player in mind. Of course, behind closed doors, they're making their strategies known. But when I look at those two offenses on paper, to me, it feels like if you can shut down CJ Stroud and Nico Collins connection, you have a clear path to victory in that game. So that's where I'd be focusing.
I agree. And Nico Collins is a pot. Do you see Joey shadowing him throughout the game or no?
No, I mean, I think they're going to obviously do a lot to get that matchup that they want, right? They want him on there, but James Pierre is someone who has just continued to gain more trust. I think they have no trouble. And this is not, again, I think, is that wrong of me to say that the organization has an extremely high level of trust in James Pierre in important moments, right? So, I don't know if I am like banking on this to be the successful path forward, but the Steelers don't really shadow. Joey Porter Jr. does not travel all the time with these top wideouts as much as he likes to, build up that competition, talk his smack. We are going to see some James Pierre going up against Nico Collins. We might even see some Brandon Echols if they're going to bring him into the X position and take that route. So I think we should be prepared to see multiple pieces of the secondary going up against him.
I laugh every single time the conversation of James Pierre comes up because it's true. It's honest.
He's a gamer.
An honest conversation. He's a gamer, but it is wild to think that James Pierre is a reliable defender against Nico Collins. If you told me that a year ago, I slap you upside the head or walk away from the conversation. I say, you don't even know football, dude. You just put two words together. Your dad's name's James, and you just happen to be kind of feeling French for a second there. James Pierre, there it is. That guy's probably good, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And here we are, and I agree. It will be both and maybe a little bit of Brandon Echols, and it'll be dangerous. But that's how you win. You shut down CJ Stroud and you force which is, you obviously want to shut down the running game first. You want to make this a CJ Stroud football game. But if you shut down Nico Collins and you make CJ Stroud win a game on you, you got a really good opportunity to actually walk away winners here and let your offense kind of handle business and see if they're capable of handling business, which I think gives them an opportunity over a CJ Stroud. Would you take Aaron Rodgers or CJ Stroud in this matchup? Who's your quarterback?
You gotta take Aaron Rodgers in this 1v1 matchup, right? You gotta take the 4-time MVP. You gotta take the guy who has a Super Bowl ring in these playoff moments. This is when, like, the conversation is, if you ask me who do I want week 14, right? If this is the matchup the Steelers have in the regular season, I'm picking CJ Stroud, no problem, because that's, he's just performing well. He's the younger guy. In the do or die situation in the playoffs, I want the guy who's been there, who's done that, who has a ring, who is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, even if he has a slightly less or a slightly slower reactivity time going through his progressions, even if he can't run as fast as he used to, even if he is slightly more limited at 42 years old. It's Aaron Rodgers, man. That's the guy I want. I'll take him over CJ Stroud until CJ Stroud wins a Super Bowl in a playoff game. If you disagree, I'm happy to hear your wrong explanation.
No. I would be wrong because the answer is no. Like, you're going Aaron and you want the guy, but that's every situation. You know what I mean? What quarterback do you want? Like, Drake May would be awesome, but I'll take Matthew Stafford because he's been there. I want the guy who knows how to do this, who's been here, who's been very good in these situations. Because when things get chaotic, and they're going to get chaotic, you want the guy who's cool, calm, and collected, because this is just another game for him. You know what I mean? He understands the importance of it, but he is not freaked out or intimidated by that importance. And that's Aaron. That's Aaron. CJ's obviously a better quarterback right now, in my opinion, but I want the guy who's been there, because in those big moments, I want the guy who could go into the huddle and say, I already know how to do this. I'm just going to do it again. That's what's going to happen here. We're going to see what happens. I do have some quarterback news for you that I do want to talk about before we get into Overreaction Tuesday. It's disappointing.
I hate
it's
you.
disappointing quarterback news for anybody who missed this today. So we all know I love a good conspiracy theory, and I'll start a new one here today. Aaron Rodgers, we don't know what's going to happen. And I do think that the Steelers would have an opportunity to bring back Aaron Rodgers, and I think they might have a slight upper hand over the Minnesota Vikings, but I think that could change. You know, the Vikings look good this offseason. They make some moves. Aaron Jones is calling Aaron in the offseason, hey, brother, come on over. Throw to Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, and Kevin O'Connell be your head coach. Like, that's so much better than what you got going on here. And his answer will be, you are very right about all of those things. You make great points. He might also retire. If the Steelers are looking for a veteran quarterback in the offseason, they just got a massive, massive announcement. ESPN's Field Yates reported that Kirk Cousins and the Atlanta Falcons have restructured their contract to say that on March 13th, a 69.7 or a 67.9, something in that, one of those two numbers, $1 million will be guaranteed to Kirk Cousins, whether he's on the Falcons or another team. However, if they release him, all they have is the guaranteed money that he was already guaranteed in his contract, but nothing more. Which means that chances are Kirk Cousins is headed to free agency. And when he heads to free agency, he will have nearly $100 million guaranteed to him. He will have already made $100 million. He has not started a football game, a meaningful football game, in 2 years. He is not going to be expensive. And if the Steelers are looking at this going, we're going to need a quarterback, you want to know who's going to be real cheap amongst the Kyler Murrays and the Anthony Richardsons and the Jameis Winstons and everybody else that'll be floating around out there? Kirk Cousins. That'll be the guy. So my quarterback news / conspiracy theory for you today is that if Aaron Rodgers does decide to leave in the offseason and the Steelers, who are not very interested in this draft class, don't draft quarterback, Kirk Cousins is on the top of their list as a potential signing for 2026.
Stop. Stop it. No. Freeze. Don't do it. I'm going to arrest you. Citizen's arrest for this. This is unbelievable. No, you can't do this to me. Noah, I knew. Listen, I hate this possibility. I hate this more than the possibility of Aaron Rodgers coming back next year. There is a lot of evidence that suggests a quarterback who has experience in the NFL and has a known reputation for learning systems relatively quickly and has a good rapport with head coaches that they have worked with is probably someone Mike Tomlin trusts to run his offense way more so than a young quarterback, a recent draft pick, a rookie, a young player, period. All that to say, there's certainly, if this happens, which I agree with your assessment that this restructuring certainly is a move that all but guarantees what is going to happen for Kirk Cousins, and he will be on a new team to start the 26th season.
Yes, he will.
If the Steelers are quarterback-less, there's certainly a chance. And I hate you for suggesting it. If you're right, I'll still say it. And I love you. I'm sorry. I don't mean it. I'm hurt. And in the heat of the moment, I said things I didn't mean. That would be awful.
I hate myself. Okay?
Awful.
And I hate myself. I hate Field Yates. I hate the Atlanta Falcons organization. You know what I mean? I kind of hate them all. I hate Arthur Smith a little bit for even working there. You know what I mean? Ever helping that situation evolve. Because if Arthur Smith didn't suck as a head coach, Kirk Cousins is not coming to the Pittsburgh Steelers because they're not drafting Michael Penix. The revolving door of chaos begins. It sucks.
I tell you now, if that happens, there will be an article that comes out the next minute that says Arthur Smith is the reason this happened and he should be run out of town. And it'll be, it might be my swan song as a person covering this team, but you got to do what you got to do if that happens. You know what I mean?
I actually, if that does happen, you have to write that. That will be the name of the clip that goes up tomorrow, is that Arthur Smith may have landed the Steelers, Kirk Cousins, which is just terrible and hurts a little bit. And I might let him know in the meantime. Might be like, Art, hey, that's for you, big guy. That one's for you there, brother. That one's for you. Because it sucks, but it might happen. It might very much so happen. And when I saw the news, I sat down right at this table here. And I looked at my wife, who knows nothing about football and has no idea who Kirk Cousins is, none at all. And I said, this sucks. She said, what? I said, Kirk Cousins is going to end up Pittsburgh Steeler. She said, oh, that sucks. I said, thank you for the sport, because I needed that. It hurt. And then I wiped away a tear and I added it to the podcast list. That's what it was. That was what it was. We'll see what happens. But let's hope we don't see anything. Let's hope we don't see anything. All right, let's do a little overreaction Tuesday. Let's ask this first. Kirk Cousins or Joe Flacco? You got to pick between the two. Those are the only two options in 2025, except for Mason Rudolph, who's competing as a third. What one's your starting quarterback in 2026?
I'm taking Joe Flacco. I don't want Kirk Cousins anywhere near this organization.
That hurts so bad. So bad. 44-year-old Joe Flacco just coming out here.
Give me Phillip Rivers too. Bring him all in. Give me a combined
quarterback. Phillip Rivers all day.
4,000.
Yeah, to get Tom Brady. Tell him to come back. He thinks he can be top 10.
Tommy B, Peyton, Eli too. Get them all.
I'd take Eli over any of them. Eli, Eli can still throw the rock. Eli can be standing back there. Easy passes. Easy.
Boy can't do anything besides throwing a football. So yeah, he can still sling it.
That's what I'm saying. All right. A little overreaction Tuesday. Let's get into it.
It's a fine line between, drinking wine and squashing grapes, as we say in this business. And sometimes it's very subtle.
Sometimes it's very subtle, my friend. I got a 4-pack for you, as always. Let's start with the big name out there, and that is DK Metcalf, set to return for the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. Gets to practice on Thursday. So excited for that. Well, I think everybody's fired up. And there was no, DK's got to work himself back into the system, and DK hasn't practiced there was none of that from Mike Tomlin. It was DK is back. That man ate Skittles and licorice for 2 weeks, and he is in prime football shape. We have no worries about DK Metcalf. All right, neither do I. DK Metcalf, overreaction or not? He's going over 100 yards and a touchdown in this playoff game against the Houston Texans.
That is just that ain't a prediction. That's what it's going to be. Quote the Water Boy. A fired up superstar player. There's going to be a whole scheme, a whole game plan from the Houston Texans to limit him. Try your best. I think limit him still means he's going to be an explosive playmaker in this game. So yeah, not an overreaction at all. I think that it ain't a prediction. It's what it's going to be.
This is what it's going to be. DK Metcalf is the scariest man on the planet right now, and I'm so excited to see him Thursday. I'm literally getting off a plane. I already told this to my wife. Getting off a plane, and I will drop her off, and I will go straight to practice because I have to see what DK looks like because I am thrilled.
I was going to ask you about that anyway, so I appreciate you. That's a logistical question we just answered live. So.
I'm doing a little work stuff here. That's behind the scenes, guys. That's what this is. All right. The evolution of Pat Freiermuth. It happened in week 18. We saw it. We saw the Pittsburgh Steelers go. Jonnu sucks. Get him off the field. The guy doesn't even know how to run routes. It's over. Aaron hates him. That's all we needed. That's all the Steelers needed. Pat's going to have it again, dude. Pat's going off. This is the beginning of Pat Freiermuth. This is the offseason or the postseason, of Pat Freiermuth. DK's got 100 yards and a touchdown. Pat is the second leading receiver in Pittsburgh with 75 and a score in this one. Overreaction or not?
Dude, what is this feeling of optimism coursing through my veins? I feel like the Incredible Hulk right now. It's
you're riding high, my friend.
This is crazy. I don't think that's an overreaction at all. Again, I think in order for the Pittsburgh Steelers to be successful, right? They have to find that secondary target. If the game plan works, which I expect it to be a lot of Jalen Warren and Kenny G early with some sprinkled in big shots, like some big shots downfield to just sort of see if they can stretch things out. Once that happens, and then once we move into the second half, that's when your secondary weapon becomes a great threat. And I think that is when Pat Freiermuth can certainly do some damage there. Not an overreaction at all.
2 for 2 on the offensive side of the ball. Let's see if we can get it on the defensive side of the football here. Okay. The Houston Texans might be the second best defense in the NFL, followed by or right behind the Denver Broncos. This unit's crazy, and they don't have missing pieces. They are just across the board stout, and that's, good for them. But the Steelers defense has also looked really good the last couple of weeks here. And there is one thing that Mike Tomlin constantly says: if you win this, you will win the game. You should win the game. And that is the turnover battle. Overreaction or not, my friend, the Pittsburgh Steelers, their defense is going to win the turnover battle in this one. Shout out to Aaron Rodgers, who just doesn't even know what an interception is the past couple of weeks.
I tell you what, this is a tough one because, yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers crush the turnover battle. They are, I have this note, they're plus 12 is their differential. There's only 3 teams with a better differential, and one of those teams is the Houston Texans, and that is because they have 29 takeaways, the third most in the NFL. I think this might be the first overreaction. Here, but not because I think it is such a crazy thing to expect. I just don't think it's anything close to a guarantee. But I will also say it is a necessity for this Pittsburgh Steelers team to win, right? Because the defense is going to have to make those plays and force mistakes out of CJ Stroud. It's just it's one thing to do it against the Baltimore Ravens, who had a far less impressive turnover differential. It's another thing to do it against the Houston Texans, who are just as competent and just as effective at creating those turnovers.
All right, well, maybe that's detrimental to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe it's not.
It certainly could be.
Certainly could be, which will lead me into this last one here. The Pittsburgh Steelers, it's been long. It's been a long, long time, my friend. And it sucked. It's come with a lot of pain. Steelers fans have watched Marquise Pouncey start games by throwing snaps over Ben Roethlisberger's head against Baker Mayfield and the Browns. They have watched Mike Tomlin come out at Arrowhead Stadium and say, "You better cut your eyelids off because we're not blinking." And then the Kansas City Chiefs win by 25 points against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have seen everything imaginable. They waited 4 extra days 2 years ago just to watch the Steelers lose to the Buffalo Bills. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to end that this week. Overreaction or not, my friend, the Steelers are about to do something they haven't done since 2016. Win a playoff game. And yes, I got chills as I said it.
That is not an overreaction. We can't say a guarantee. We cannot get ahead of ourselves. It is still only Tuesday. It's not an overreaction. We talked about streaks yesterday, talked about it more on Puntori's playbook. Like, there's not only are there things about the way the Steelers have played, winners of 4 out of their 5 last games, not only is there something to the day of the week in which they're playing this game, not only is there something to their opponent's record on the road in the postseason, which was brought to our attention yesterday. There's some reason to believe. I don't think it's an overreaction, dude. I really don't.
I am not ready to pick a winner yet. So this is solely based off of, the theme of Overreaction Tuesday here. But I did, man. I got some chills as I said that one. I got some chills as I said it. We'll see what happens, and we'll make our picks. We got 3 days to come up with picks here. 3 days. It's a long time. That is a long, long time.
A lot of time to stew on this bad boy.
Long time to stew on this bad boy. I got a 5-hour flight back on Thursday morning, and I'm just going to be sitting there going, I don't know, bro. I have no idea. Might have to read about it. I don't know. See what happens. All right. That's everything on our agenda. Shout out to everybody. As always, Jacob, shout out to some Overreaction Tuesdays here. We're going to start diving into your questions. We're going to take a quick break on the other side of it. We'll start answering them. We'll be back in 30 seconds.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes Black and Gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
All righty. We're going to start it off with Maddie here, and we were going to talk about this more and more this week. We will dive into it more and more throughout the week, obviously. Raheem Morris, Cliff Kingsbury, Chambliss in 2027. Let's start with Cliff Kingsbury, because I think that Raheem is the easier answer here. That's a yes, and we could explain why here momentarily. Cliff Kingsbury just got fired by the Washington Commanders as offensive coordinator, which is just a crazy thing to happen, in my opinion, because that offense was bad, certainly. Jaden Daniels was also hurt like almost all of the season. And when Marcus Mariota is your starting quarterback, where are your expectations? Because they cannot be high enough to say that man's got to save the offensive coordinator's job. Washington doesn't agree. Would have taken Cliff Kingsbury in Pittsburgh, would have lasted a century, because if they let Matt Canada go 3 seasons, I could only imagine how long he would get. Would you hire Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason?
No. I love Raheem Morris.
Of young guys? Not
no,
young enough?
I made a list of 11 people. If anyone watched that Puntori's playbook, I talked about 3 of those people that I really like.
People did.
And shout out. I conveniently or maybe accidentally left Cliff Kingsbury off. Who cares how to pronounce his name, man? Because it doesn't matter. I think the heat has finally cooled off from him. You know, he can stop coasting off of the success at Texas Tech with Pat Mahomes. Wonder why that worked out. We can stop pretending like he is the QB whisperer that we all know him to be. No, thank you. I think the rise of Kingsbury is now on the other end of that bell curve, downward trajectory.
I don't disagree with that. I like Cliff Kingsbury. Here's my thing, is I am following if the Steelers move on from Arthur Smith, which that all depends on how this playoff run goes. I follow a very specific set of rules this offseason if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, they're not going to listen to me, but if they did, if they were to, it would be one line, and it said, Kyle Shanahan / McVay coaching tree. And that is my only rule. And I don't care if it's the backup offensive line coach, okay? If they have learned under either of those people, I am very okay with the Steelers hiring them. Anybody else? I don't want them. I don't. Because the NFL, especially at the coordinator positions, always come from those branches. They always come from the branches. The NFL is one giant family tree. If you really break it all down, there's a couple of real wild cards. It's a circle of life. There's a couple of wild cards, but it always comes. And it always, you could go back. You know what I mean? It didn't just start here. It started way back when, and then it just continued, and it always changes. And right now, the hot ones are the McVay and the Shanahan coaching trees. And I want either of those. I don't care what one it is. And McVay comes from the Shanahan coaching tree, but he's created his own, and that's the next generation of them. I want one of those two. Those are the only two that I'm accepting if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't care who it is, but I don't want anybody else, because I just think that that's a wasted opportunity to say, oh, yeah, let's go get Gerard Johnson. No. Go get whoever it is out there to be the next guy and make that move, because the upside is so strong there, and where that person has learned offense is so smart and so successful. I just have too much faith in it. Way too much faith in it. That's my only rule for the Steelers this offseason.
No, you're you're right. And those are the same roles that a very similar, parameters that I outlined in that Puntori's Playbook episode as well. And that's why over the last week or so, 2 weeks of doing this sort of research into it, I think the person that I've identified as being my favorite candidate, because he fits your specific requirements so nicely, is Leonard Hankerson with the San Francisco 49ers. And you just look at a guy who's been with them for, I think this is his 4th year, and he's been in the same role for the past 3 seasons. Like, man, and he was a wide receiver in the NFL. Like, there's something about that feels particularly attractive and compatible with the next offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers, because it feels like that is someone who understands the nuances of how the game has changed and observed them pretty closely by being under that Shanahan tree, working with the 49ers offense, a passing attack that has worked with guys like Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. That's a guy I would love for the Steelers to bring in.
I agree. Raheem Morris is an easy yes. That guy is a fantastic defensive-minded coach. I think he would fit perfectly with the Steelers. I think him and Mike Tomlin, that would be the first time that I think Mike Tomlin would be willing to give up power. And I also think that they could work hand in hand, as they've done in the past, to say, okay, yeah, let's make this thing work. I would be all about it. And then Chambliss in 27, I'd be all about too, depending on how the draft class shakes out. But I think it is way too early to have any idea what quarterbacks are looking like, because Chambliss will not be first on my list. He might not even be top 5, depending on what the draft class shakes out to be. And I'm not willing to jump the gun on that one.
That's going to be very interesting to monitor for sure. I immediately do have him like lower down on the 27 class, but his run in the CFP is awesome right now. Yeah. So that's only going to help that draft stock as well. Love Raheem Morris. That's the last I'll say about the coordinator talk. Would love for him to be the defensive coordinator.
Love for it. Professional couch coaches. Honestly, I feel like the defense wasn't that bad. Not every team has a Derrick Henry that just ran for 200 plus yards the week before to play action to OR on Tuesday. The defense gave up 0 plays of over 20 plus yards. I don't think the Steelers defense was bad against the Ravens. Do I think they were perfect? No, far from it. But I think that if you remove 3 touchdowns, even giving up 126 yards to Derrick Henry is impressive because of what he did in the first half compared to what he did in the second half. When you made the adjustments, which is what football games are about, making adjustments. When you made those, you limited them to 15 yards in the second half. I am very okay with that. I think if you fixed up some real sloppy moments, the Steelers defense has, that we are not even talking about whether or not it was a good moment from the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, they just need to find a way to take what they do in the third quarter defensively and just double it, because I saw something like, was it less than 30 yards they've allowed total over the last 3 games in the third quarter. And I think like 28 of those yards were to the Ravens. So it's like that they've been a pretty outstanding team defensively to open the second half. Tells me they're capable of making adjustments. The execution all the way through is sort of where that lets up. Can't happen against the Houston Texans team, which again, as we talked about, can stretch the field, has a guy like Nico Collins who can get behind your struggling safeties. You can't be doing that, but you make that adjustment, you better stick to it the rest of the game, which they certainly are capable of. I don't want to knock them too hard.
I agree, but you cannot, you give up those big scary plays, you fall behind against Houston. Their defense is so good, you might not be able to catch back up. So I agree with you there for sure. Bernard, A-Rod is still that dude. He is. Removing personal vendettas or narrative, I would say.
Throw him out.
Would you bring Ben back or Aaron next season?
You're saying, right, like, would I go call Ben Roethlisberger?
Yep.
Right now, like him.
You're looking at a quarterback room that is Kirk Cousins and Mason Rudolph. If you don't figure out your quarterback position, the only 2 real options are Aaron Rodgers or Ben. Where are you going?
Aaron Rodgers, of course. Like that. That's not even a question, But man,
you're not calling Ben. You're not saying Ben Roethlisberger.
I'd rather tap dance on a minefield.
Dude, that guy, if you gave him a pocket, still probably has an arm. He can't get outside the pocket one time.
Probably can't be tackled very easily still.
Oh,
if I
he
had
can
to
be
guess, 'cause
tackled.
he's still a massive man.
I watched this man barely be able to function his last season in the NFL, but he was still throwing moves. He was throwing some dang good footballs, and it took him a minute to get up. You know what I mean? Shot clock was always getting close because it took him a second to, regroup himself. He's on the ground. He's like, couple of swings, you know what I mean? Before he got back up. He still had an arm, though.
Come on now. Get your feet under you.
Get your feet under you. He still had an arm. He still had an arm. I agree with you. A-Rod's that guy, man. And shout out to A-Rod for being that guy. I'm all about people proving other people wrong, and I thought he had a lot of hate coming into the season. And I don't think he's been perfect, but I think for 42 years old, there are a lot worse quarterbacks in the NFL than Aaron Rodgers. A ton of worse quarterbacks.
A ton.
Yeah.
A ton.
Shout out to A-Rod. Bernard's got another one. Skip Bayless is a joke.
What do you do?
I couldn't tell you. I haven't watched Skip Bayless in 10 years, maybe. 10 years. I stopped on the Skip Bayless thing when he would say things like, LeBron James isn't that good. Okay, Skip. Okay. Well, all right. You either don't watch football and you spend way too much time dancing in front of a camera, or you're doing this. You're doing this on purpose.
I legitimately have not watched any of Skip Bayless since Shannon Sharp was the other host on that show. They were co-hosts, right?
Yeah, they were. Totally forgot about that. I don't even think I watched
my
that.
roommates and I would watch that. What is that?
Is he still on Fox? Is he still on FS1?
I think so. I don't know what Shannon Sharp is doing right now, or what people.
The only
think
reason
of
I
him
know
right
about
now.
Shannon Sharp is, do you get you're on TikTok? Do you get all the TikToks of him and Ocho Cinco? All the wild. That's how I know what Shannon Sharp's up to, because every time I scroll by, I'm like, I hope I'm not in a public place. I hope nobody could hear this.
That stuff is cracks me up. We quote there's a specific Chad Ochocinco story that is not family friendly, but I do love to quote it all the time in my personal life. A family friendly quote from Shannon Sharp was actually in a conversation with Skip Bayless. They're talking about LeBron James, and Skip Bayless is spouting off about, how he's not that good, blah, blah, blah. And Shannon Sharp just starts chewing, and he's just going, he goes, Skip, what am I doing? He goes, chewing, I'm LeBron James, I'm chewing grass because he's the GOAT. Bah. And just it's in a way that only Shannon Sharp could do it. And it was just my one roommate and I would send each other memes of that all the time.
That's
chewing grass because
incredible.
he's the GOAT. Bet.
Chewing grass because he's the GOAT. Man, shout out to Shannon Sharp, dude. Shout out to
that's a Nightcap podcast, whatever that's called.
With the
That's
Nightcap,
hilarious.
bro. Shiniest teeth on the internet, those two have. Shout out to them. 603 Yinzer, appreciate you, my guy. What was y'all's favorite Perk Rogers performance of the regular season? I'm leaning towards week 1 Jets. Week 1 Jets was a good one. I think it's because of the atmosphere and the environment and like how awesome it was. I think I might go Dublin. I might go the Dublin game because Aaron was playing well, but there were peak Perk Rogers moments. There were smelling salt. That was the birth of smelling salts Rogers. You know what I mean? A little DK for 80. You know what I mean? A little. That was the birth of the Rodgers we know today, I think. I think I'm leaning Dublin.
That's a great pick. I have a real answer, and that is the most recent victory. I mean, that is just, he obviously took a couple of hits, fell hard on that injured wrist. You saw that it obviously bothered him in some sort of way. Leads a game-winning touchdown drive, throws 2 touchdowns, was it? Or leads 2 touchdown drives in the fourth quarter. Like, that's vintage Aaron Rodgers. That's him as Perk Rogers to the max. My favorite, I think, overall individual moment was against the Cincinnati Bengals when they should have scored that go-ahead touchdown, and he was tackled by left tackle Broderick Jones, then immediately got up and shoved him. Because that was like the most classic Rodgers moment ever, and just my favorite moment of the entire season. I think whatever happens afterwards.
Broderick was in the locker room a couple of weeks ago, and it was the first time all the guys saw him since the injury. And I was waiting for somebody to I know what you're laughing at.
Trying to work the mute button. My apologies.
It was the first time they all saw him, and I was waiting for Aaron to like walk over and tackle a broken neck Broderick Jones and, you know, make everything way worse for him. So I love that one. I agree with it. I think Aaron's had some moments. Aaron's had some good moments for sure. Lindsay, does AR win this game for us? Ooh.
Like literally? Like is he, or like, are we talking about post game? Like Aaron Rodgers was the, you know,
I want to say the post. I want to say like the overall sentiment of the game. Does Aaron Rodgers win it? I'll tell you this. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Go ahead. You can riff on that.
I don't think there is a scenario where they get out of this game where it's like Aaron Rodgers played really poorly, you know, and it was, thank goodness Kenneth Gainwell was able to get 4,000 yards on the ground. Like it has to be Aaron Rodgers was able to be the best player on the field for the Steelers and systematically sort of pick apart a very stingy defense. That is what I think has to be the narrative, you know, on Tuesday morning next week if we're talking about a Steelers victory.
Yes, I agree. I mean, it can't be, if it's the other way around, if it's, oh, Aaron struggled, the Steelers don't win this game. You know, you don't walk away victorious if Aaron throws 2 interceptions and he can't get the job done. This is he might not have to win it for you, but he certainly can't lose it. He's got to be a part of the victory for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Eclectic divergent. Did I say that right? Eclectic divergent. That was close. We're going to have everyone on the roster available. Of those who are not on IR, yes, everybody will be available. So Darnell, Deshaun Elliott, Isaiah Loudermilk, all of them will not be back yet. I will also say, though, that there are a lot of names on IR who have been in the building, and that doesn't mean anything, but it might mean something in the next couple of weeks. We'll see what happens. As for this week, yes, anybody who was on the injury report outside of IR will be available. Nate Moore, is DK the only reason we should expect Aaron to handle a strong pass rush this time? Is DK enough? I hope DK and Pat. I think you could add Pat to that mix as well. But I do expect there have been a lot of real quick screens to MVS that go absolutely nowhere over the last 2 weeks. And with DK, at least you might get a couple of yards. You know, at least that might work for something. But there have been so many times where I've went, that's a DK play, and they are throwing that to Adam Thielen. Yikes. And I think that those moments, yeah, I don't know if DK will be enough, but I think you're going to get a much better option for Aaron Rodgers than what he's had.
Yeah, and I think just to add on a little bit more reason to be, you know, optimistic or to maybe expect that Aaron Rodgers can withstand this pass rushes, you know, not to beat a dead horse here, but you got 2 tackles that you're feeling confident in, you know, huge challenge, right? Like the matchup on paper, you're like, oh, this is certainly favors the Houston Texans, but
yes,
you know, they didn't allow a sack to Myles Garrett, who set a single season record. You know, I know that was the entire game plan, and I fault them for pursuing that over a win, but hey, it shows that they can take on elite pass rushing and find success. That might be a little bit of reason to be encouraged here as well.
I agree. ND Joe, have you guys heard that Boz's kick was ruled a block? It did, actually. And did you go back and watch? It does look like they tipped it. Now, it's very close. Very close, but it was ruled a block.
It's, you know, the NFL statisticians are really good at seeing what just like I will not, you know. And,
oh yeah, you have to go back and really evaluate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that it makes sense because the Ravens seemed a little bit celebratory after the PAT, right? Like it didn't seem like they were like, whoa, thank goodness Boswell missed one. Like it seemed like the team was like, yeah, like someone got a hand on it. So, you know, that makes sense to me. I'm not like that's insane. That's a huge deal though. as far as I'm concerned, because that completely shifts this narrative that we were talking about just yesterday about do you have to worry about Chris Boswell, who, we probably shouldn't have even said that because he made a 50+ yard field goal in the same game, but that's a reassuring thing. Whether it happened or not, that's the reality we must accept.
Yeah, I agree. Jake, what do you guys think? I say you sell out to defend the pass and make the Texans beat you with their running backs, especially with how our run defense has been playing. Marks and Chubb haven't been great. I see. Okay, so I hear what you're saying, and it does make a lot of sense. However, the philosophy in the NFL is simple. If you can run the ball successfully, you have such an upper hand on the outcome of the game because you control the clock. You know what I mean? You don't allow the other team to make mistakes because you have just slow paced this thing into if we are successful, it's fine. And if you're selling out for the pass, you are banking on a run defense that sometimes is very good and sometimes is not very good to be very good. And I think that that's a risk that I don't know if I'm willing to take. Now, you want it to be in the hands of their lesser talented guys, but I want it to be whoever wide receiver 3 is in Noah Brown in Houston. I want Noah Brown and Nick Chubb to be the difference makers in this football game because I feel pretty good about that over, selling out to defend the pass and saying Nick Chubb goes for 70 and Marks goes for 75 and the Steelers lose 17-14 because they just couldn't get the ball back in time.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this in some other respects, but I do think the Steelers have gotten increasingly better at finding ways to limit the best option that an opposing offense comes in with. But there are some guys, you look at someone like Christian Kirk is, I guess, technically someone you have to consider, but wow, I look at someone
completely.
I look at someone here's another name like Jaden Higgins for the Houston Texans, and you're like, there's a guy who, if you focus too much, if you sell out, to use Yinzer Jake's term here, in a certain direction, that's a player that I think, and really a lot of secondary options that I struggle to name, that you can struggle to name, that is where it's going to come back to bite you. Is do they have, you cannot sell out completely because good NFL teams will take advantage of that. So you have to find a balance. But I do agree that this run defense, which has been a better part of the Steelers defense, can really sort of hold their own going up against the Texans run attack. Excuse me.
Agreed. Diamond, do the guys on IR still get full pay? They do. There's health insurance that, it's like TJ. When TJ was out those 2 weeks, it's not like he lost game checks. The NFL actually changed their motto to that, which is very strange. I don't know how it's calculated in, but it's now every week throughout the year instead of just the season that they get paid. So yeah, if you are on IR, you still continue to get paid. It's a lot of time, like Dean Lowry is a prime example of that. You know what I mean? Got hurt in training camp. Yeah, forgot he existed, huh? Forgot he was there. Me too.
Mm-hmm. I was like, that guy was an actor on Smallville. You know what I mean? I don't even know who you're talking about.
What? Was he really?
Exactly. No. The name was so unfamiliar to me in the moment. I'm like, that sounds like a 90s actor. You know what I mean?
It's true.
That's all I can think of.
It's true. But yes, they do still continue to get paid under, a bunch of different things. Maddie, how are the wide receivers preparing for Stingley, Petrie, and Lassiter? We're going to find out on Thursday. Steelers haven't practiced yet. They'll practice Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Host the Texans on Monday, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. That being said, this time of year, it is a lot of you've already done it. You know what I mean? Practice is basically a glorified walkthrough every single day for every NFL team right now. So it's about manning up across from your guy and seeing who could win. I know love Will Howard. Is Morton, who just got released, a good offensive coordinator for us? He actually literally just got fired by the
Detroit Lions. Fired Morton.
Detroit. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. There's something about a guy who gets his play calling duties removed in the middle of the season to Dan Campbell who makes me a little nervous.
Yeah. I wouldn't want him to come in immediately. He's probably a good coach, right? In a good system, moved up a little bit, but I would say that the deck was absolutely and unfairly stacked against him when you're replacing Ben Johnson and you're watching what Ben Johnson is doing right now with the Chicago Bears, and you're like, we missed the playoffs. Offense kind of stunk. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and show more in the door, I wouldn't want him right now.
No.
But doesn't mean he's a bad coach.
I agree with that. Backup, fallback option.
Old Johnny Mo.
A little offensive consultant. I'd be about it. Professional couch coaches. That was my Overreaction Tuesday. The defense doesn't give up. No explosive plays of 20 plus yards in this game. Overreaction or not, no plays of 20 receptions. Dude, Nico Collins is a 20-yard pass catcher. That's what he does. He just catches 20-yard passes.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, I totally misunderstood the previous comment here from professional couch coaches. That's a big overreaction, at least according to me, that there's going to be, I think this is what the Steelers sort of MO is that they do give up these chunk plays, but in between those chunk plays, they're so much better than they were at the start of the year, right? Like they give up a big run to Derrick Henry, then it's 1 yard, 2 yards, like these little, all of the momentum completely shifts. I find it hard to believe that will change all of a sudden against the Texans, but would love for you to be correct.
I would love for you to be correct too. I think I'm going to walk the line of overreaction. None, 0. That's a lot. All you need is one.
A big game.
That's a lot of plays. It's a lot of plays to not have no 20-yard plus plays. But again, I hope you're right. I 100% hope you're right. Reality sucks. I think the Steelers play this game. I agree, dude. I 100% agree. I think the Steelers can play this game super safe with all the pressure of winning a playoff game. I expect a lot of checkdowns and a low-scoring game, to be honest. I hope not. That's the one thing I hope not. Go out there and play like you played against the Ravens. Just go to play to win, Go play to score 25 points. Let the defense just play well. And that's what I would
ideally do. Yeah, that would be great. I think at least the first half is going to completely mirror, the Ravens game. Like they're going to be conservative. They're going to be eager to punt. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to concede. They don't want to concede field position. Excuse me. They don't want to, lose the early battle. But it's going to have to open up. Someone's going to have to take a shot, as we talked about earlier. The Steelers are going to have to connect to make a big play happen to win this game. The Texans are the same thing. Someone's going to have to break it open at some point, but these two defenses going at it, I think, is like classic NFL playoff football that could lead to a low-scoring affair.
It would be nuts. A Monday night game of 14-10. With that being said, we bet low on the Ravens. None of us were right.
That was real low. Yeah,
we're right. Yep. Keeping it trucking. Pittsburgh Hornets. Start bench cut. Will Howard, Airbud, or Shedeur Sanders up. This is easy.
It's easy.
Yeah. You're just starting Will Howard. You're benching Airbud. And you're cutting Shedeur. You're starting Airbud?
I'm starting Airbud 10 times. This is a superhero. This is a dog that can play sports without having to be taught. Okay. This is not. True. This is him and Scooby-Doo are the two most incredible canines to ever exist in the entirety of humanity. So yes, I'm starting the wonder dog that is Airbud. He's a multi-sport athlete. Yes, I'm starting Airbud.
He's a multi-sport children's league athlete. That's what.
Kid. You know what's crazy? Can I get a minute, just like 30 seconds to riff?
Rift.
Do you remember like one of the B plots in the first Airbud movie?
One of the
the basketball movie of Airbud, the first one, the first golden retriever.
Probably, if you told me.
The coach was like abusing the players. Like there's a scene where Airbud leads some adults and the main character into the gym, and the coach is basically pelting one of his teammates with basketballs because he's not. Yeah, and Airbud he's your point guard, he's your quarterback. Dude's putting people behind bars too. You know what I mean?
It's true.
So yeah, I'm starting Airbud.
All right. Shout out to Airbud, dude. Shout out to Airbud.
The rest doesn't matter.
It doesn't. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I'm starting Airbud. The rest of them, Shalif. Just get the sheck out of here. For real. For real. Danny, I think playing without DK may have been a blessing. Learning to trust other wide receivers. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think it opened the door for Pat to get that opportunity. I think it opened the door for Calvin to kind of gain some trust from Aaron with another game-winning touchdown. I don't think it did much for the rest of them. But if that's all that had happened, if it was just the offense realized Pat needs to play more football, that's the biggest W that the Steelers have, without question.
Yeah, I do think it's too early to say, like, though this was a blessing in disguise, but like, and maybe that's just me still holding sour grapes about, not having their best playmaker in two important games. But yeah, if this sets up, if that was the sort of like the foreshadowing that sets up Pat Freiermuth or a player like Calvin Austin or Thielen, MVS, go down the list. I don't care who. It can be Connor Hayward coming in the clutch, but someone else who Aaron Rodgers can turn to get that pivotal first down, to get that go-ahead touchdown. Great. You know what I mean? Then it absolutely was all worth it. The biggest blessing in disguise.
I agree. 603 Yinzer, just giving you a heads up. We did answer this question. If you go back a little ways, you might have missed it, but we did. I want to make sure that you don't think we're avoiding you there. Pittsburgh Hornets, who catches more balls in the playoffs? Roman Wilson or Derek Harmon?
Derek Harmon. You have to play. You have to be active to catch a ball. Like, I was going to say,
I think Derek Harmon might play more offensive snaps than Roman Wilson in this game, because you never know. Maybe he's the next man up on the tush push.
Exactly.
It's
not gonna be Roman. I like, guys, it's
not playing.
Poor kid, I get it.
Yep.
But like, he ain't even got a hat on Monday night.
Dude, he didn't get a helmet with no DK at all. They were like, that we just don't need him. Get him off this team. So
they're like, Roman, you got your helmet? And he was like, yeah, coach, I'm ready. And they're like, great, make sure Scotty's fits, and then you can throw yours out. And then we're going to
leave yours in the dumpster on the way out of here, and go help Scotty put his shoes on. Okay. Get out. Andrew, can Darnell come back for the Super Bowl? Technically, yes, he can come back if the Steelers make it to the Super Bowl. Will that happen? Who knows? Him, Deshaun Elliott, Isaiah Loudermilk, they're all there and available if needed come the Super Bowl. B Breezy, I want to be a member. You could hit the link in the description below. That'll take you to the membership tab on YouTube. It'll look like the homepage. It's not. Hit join, become a member, join the picnic pack. We appreciate you as always. Got a couple of offensive coordinator questions for you here. David, how about Antoine Randall as an offensive coordinator? This one is the one exception I will have a conversation about. I'm not going to say that I'm saying yes to it. I will have a conversation. And what helps is that he may be the first member from the new coaching tree, which is the Ben Johnson coaching tree, which so far looks pretty damn good in Chicago. And Antoine's, he's been all right. He's coached some good wide receivers in the NFL in his day.
You know what? I remember and think of fondly that an incredible trick play in Super Bowl XL.
Yes.
Against the Seahawks? Yeah.
Yep.
I love Antoine Randall, just as a kid who grew up in Pittsburgh watching the Steelers. This violates my personal requirements for this next offensive coordinator, and that's because I think he's already in too deep with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Whoa.
He played here, he won here. It's the same reason I don't really want, I don't want Joey Porter Sr. to be a coach here. I don't really I don't want guys who are so steeped in the Steelers way. I want guys who are, or women for that matter, I don't really care, who are steeped in the nuances of this ever-changing game and have been finding success like that, who aren't, a part of the tradition of the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I do think that they need a little bit more outside perspective to really push this team forward, to really innovate and get them back to championship status.
I didn't pay attention to a word you said.
I was going to say, I just saw some comments too.
John Harbaugh just got fired by the Baltimore Ravens. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. That's crazy to me. Okay. I'm going to tie this into Mike T real fast, okay? Because we got to have a conversation about this. Gotta. John Harbaugh gets fired after 18 seasons, a year where Lamar Jackson is hurt almost the entire year, where they've won playoff games the last 9 years. They've won playoff games. They have a 2-time MVP, and he gets fired after an 8-9 season. What just happened? What just happened? Dude, let me ask the big question. No, actually, go ahead. I want your thoughts first, but I got a big question for it.
This is crazy. You know, this is truly the end of an era in terms of just AFC North football, right? Like John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin are these two pillars of coaching in the NFL. Man, like that, it's crazy. It shows that no job is ever truly safe in the NFL, no matter what your resume is, no matter what you have achieved in the past. You are not guaranteed that job and to show up at that job the next day. So I want to hear your question, but that's my immediate thought.
Okay. My questions. Sorry, I'm working with our Ravens team to make sure that everything's good because this is crazy. This is crazy. Let's bring this down here. What does that say for Mike Tomlin if the Steelers lose on Monday night? What does that say? John Harbaugh just got fired after 18 seasons after one bad year. One bad year. He's won playoff games. They've been contenders. The Steelers haven't been a contender in 9 years.
Honestly, my thought is it does nothing as far as the Steelers' view on Mike Tomlin, right? Like I think we are running this thing back, right? I think there was enough for the Steelers. Not saying I agree with it. You cannot help but wonder if they go in there, if they go into Acrisure Stadium, they lose another convincing or embarrassing game in the first round of the playoffs.
Yes.
Was that recent example of your bitter rival letting go of their longtime head coach enough of a catalyst to stir that on for you as well? Because again, if they lose and they get embarrassed by the Houston Texans, you have nothing else to sort of be like, well, it's about the respect, the long-standing tenure. It's about the tradition of it. You're like, well, John Harbaugh was the next closest thing and he got shown the door. So I don't think it changes things from the Steelers organizational perspective, if I'm speaking on from what I've seen and heard and observed in my time covering the team, but it has to make you wonder.
It's got to make you wonder. It's got to make you wonder. I'm going to be honest. I think it opens the door. I think it does. I think the pressure is now on Mike Tomlin. And I'll have a call him out tomorrow morning on how much this is. I'm going to a Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year event tonight. I might have to call them and say, look at dude, the Steelers didn't even fire anybody. But I might have to miss this because I got stuff to do right now. I mean, I just
that's crazy.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
It opens the I think it does. I think it opens the door for Art Rooney to say maybe that is the right move. Like, I think that this is the final block of like a holy smokes, like just maybe. Now, will they do that? I have no idea. But I think it got if they kept him, we're not even having this conversation. They fired him. And I think that just said, I think Art Rooney's sitting there going, what? Just like we are. And his brain's got to be going one way or another. I don't know. We'll see. Double R, where does Harbaugh coach next season?
His couch.
I was going to say, I don't think he does. I think he takes a year off. I think he might be done totally. I think his coaching career might be over. He's 60-some. You know what I mean?
Maybe he's the quote-unquote NFL head coach that's being courted to go on TV next year. You know what I mean? People said it was Tomlin, but maybe it's Harbaugh. You know what I mean?
Could you imagine a Tomlin Harbaugh
if I were him,
show?
That'd be and then they all go on the Nightcap podcast after. Are you kidding me?
Crazy. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he gets a job this offseason. I don't think he's looking for a job this offseason. I think he takes a year and says, what the heck just happened to me? And goes away. Poke the Ravens' nest salad. Do the Ravens try and trade Lamar now?
No.
To the Pittsburgh Steelers, dude? Are the Steelers chasing Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson? Opinion piece number 2 dropping in the morning. I'm not going anywhere tonight.
The path, the doorway to Lamar has just opened. No, I see this clearly as a move that is we support Lamar Jackson. We believe he is our ticket to the Super Bowl, not having John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. They're going to bring in a coach. They're going to bring in someone that is just perfectly tailored to fit Lamar Jackson's next couple of years, and they're going to run with it. That's what that tells me. But when everything's in chaos, that's when you strike. You know what I mean? A team in a sort of like in the windfall of this sweeping change, you take advantage and you go get your player if you need to. You know what I mean? So the backfield of Lamar Jackson, Jalen Warren, Kenneth Gainwell, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers again, Ben Roethlisberger. It's all happening. It's all happening.
Let me toss this one your way. Kevin Stefanski to the Ravens. The Browns be the Browns. The Browns be the Browns. And they may have just handed. He'd be a great coach there. He'd be a great
for the Ravens.
There. Yeah.
Do you mean that genuinely, or do you mean like because then we would be able to like kick the crap out of them?
No, I think Kevin Stefanski's a very good head coach in a very bad organization. I think the Browns and the Jets are not far off, and I think Stefanski is a very talented coach. He comes from the right tree. He's got the right offensive mind, and he's had success. You know what I mean? He made Shedeur Sanders at moments look like okay. You know, like that's. He went to the playoffs with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco.
That's true.
He beat a guy. He helped Joe Flacco beat a man who died. Who died, Jacob, for a comeback player of the year. That's an impressive resume. And the Browns said, no, we're going to fire the head coach, but the GM that traded our entire franchise for Deshaun Watson, he keeps his job. That is what the Browns did. I
didn't know. I was so confused for a second until I realized who was in the competition for comeback player of the year.
Should have been anybody but the man who died on a football field and came back to life.
You would
came back to life. It's in the words of what he did. Come back, came back. Joe Flacco just led the Browns to the playoffs. That's how impressive that was.
Do you know what high school birth legends like Dan Marino, DeMar Hamlin, and Jacob Puntori?
No.
It's a Central Catholic where we all went to high school.
Pretty much boys. Did you send flowers?
Best friends. Who? What do you say?
I said, did you send flowers?
No. I bet I graduated 2 years above DeMar, but I bet he probably would have shoved me in a locker. I was a theater nerd in high school. You know what I mean? Like we would have had no reason to interact.
Now you would have just been like, you lost to Joe Burrow, dude. You literally did. You came back to life. You beat all the odds, and you lost to Joe Burrow. You lost to Joe Flacco. What crazy. Crazy. Diamond, I think it's because he really didn't get the most out of his roster. Imagine if Tomlin had had Lamar and Henry, what would he have done? Oh, I mean, it would have been awesome. The Steelers had Lamar Jackson. I mean, we have no idea, but it'd be a blast to watch. It'd be a blast to watch. Could you imagine if they signed Derrick Henry over drafting Najee Harris?
Dude, that would have been crazy.
Awesome.
Would have been crazy. Oh, yep. Man. They could have had Lamar. They could have. A lot of teams could have had Lamar.
A lot of teams could have had Lamar. I love Will Howard. What's your opinion? What's the safest path to the Super Bowl? We'll end our John Harbaugh talk for a second here. I think it's Houston, Jacksonville somehow, which I don't think could happen. No, it could happen. Houston, Jacksonville,
call the wild card. Well,
Houston, Jacksonville, Chargers, which that can't happen. No, that could happen. Houston, Jacksonville, Chargers. There it is. Whoop. Safest path to Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Maybe Buffalo for LA.
Yeah, the Chargers are tough. They're the safest path, man. The path of least resistance. I reject it. I think you have to go through the hardest path. And I'm not just saying this because I don't have an answer. You have to go through the toughest path to get the greatest reward,
Ooh.
So bring it all on. I think you have to. I don't think Jacksonville's a walk in the park right now. I
No.
don't think any of these teams really would be, but I think I want to see them take down the best teams. I really do.
I agree. Justin Gordon, I don't know how I feel about Pitt and A-Rod just dumping Roman. I mean, I think I feel terrible about it. I can't believe that happened, or that's going to happen. But chances are I don't see Roman Wilson on the roster in 2026. I just don't.
No, especially when they draft another one in the first, 2 or 3 rounds. Like, what are you going to do? Where's the room for him? I don't agree with it. I think it's such a waste of a 3rd round pick, such a waste of a young talent. But I mean, what other conclusions can you come to with their plans for him? They just continue to show he's not a part of the future.
I agree. All right, guys. With that said, I'm going to go write 40 articles about how the Steelers are going to somehow end up with Lamar Jackson and how Mike Tomlin has so much pressure on him. It's crazy. All right. We're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcast. As always, find all our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. And we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.